This week on Midmo J, it's time to start running the trail cameras. Patience is not always my virtue. If you talk to most people I know, they'd probably tell you I'm not the most patient person on the whole. That being said, I decided the end of June, particularly June 25th, was close enough to July to start the July survey. This time of year, deer are all about food and cover, and they don't like traveling very far in between. Knowing this, I decided to put my first two trail cams of the year out on the North Clover plot and the South Bean plot. I placed the first right over the mineral plot, where it also would pick up the activity beyond it in the clover plot. I only have 3 cameras to cover all the land that I hunt, so I have to be picky about my setups.
When I first have a new set for a trail cam, the first thing I'll do is I'll get out in front of it, make sure it's all lined up correctly. Then I'll also walk back and forth to make sure it's actually picking up my movement. If it's picking up my movement, it's going to pick up a deer's movement. A lot of the lower price point ones don't have some kind of viewer to show you where it's pointing, so that gives me a little extra peace of mind. If I go up and check it, it has a picture or two on it. So obviously my first picture on my trail cams is always me walking around.
In the last video I sprayed clethodim, a grass killer, and after a couple weeks the grass is either very puny looking or dying. But as is typical, I have a new issue in the plots. As you can see, this broadleaf weed is starting to take over a few places in the plot. And since this seed is not Roundup ready, there's frankly not a lot I can do to control it. But that's just a few isolated areas, so I'm probably going to live with it. For the most part, the seed germination has been very, very good with this seed. Once the beans get taller, they should shade out a lot of these weeds. The second trail camera I placed around the corner from the bean plot on a known travel corridor and bedding area. Knowing the land helped me pick the places I wanted to put the trail cams fairly quickly. But even if you're dealing with new land you don't know, placing trail cams this time of year is fairly simple. If you remember food plot, mineral plot, water, you'll do just fine. A change in music seemed appropriate as we're now starting to get into bucks that some people would consider shooters. Let's first talk about Loppy. Loppy was a mainframe 10-point. I bestowed this name to him because he had a G3 that seemed to lop over. Loppy was a little bit hard for me at first because I never got a good broadside picture of him. Due to the slight sway in his back and his belly hanging down a little bit, I knew he was no 2-year-old. You guys that hunt 4 and 5-year-olds, this is the kind of buck that gets you in trouble if you're not paying attention. After looking at all the variables, it came down to the distance from his belly to the ground. I could tell he was a very tall deer, and typically when a deer looks very tall, he's not old. I'm not saying that they shrink, I'm saying that he hasn't fully grown into his body yet. If he shows up in the July survey, he's number 1 on the list this year. This picture of Tall 8 is the perfect training piece. He is a very tall, muscular deer with a slight sway in his back. His brisket is not fully formed down to his chest, and he just looks like a big thoroughbred. One last piece of evidence is he hasn't formed any kind of haunch at his rear end. From all these factors, he is your classic 3-year-old.
New set of trail cams. A lot of times what I will do when I have a new set for a trail cam is I will
What's the good of having videos if you can't make fun of yourself occasionally? So as we move into the next couple weeks, I'm anxious to see what we have on the trail cams and what deer are left over from last year. It's always fun to get that first look at what a buck is becoming this year. I hope you get a chance to get out and scout that buck you'll be chasing this fall. And as always, thanks for watching.